my dear learners. I'm Dr. Shalini Mittal, and today we are going to discuss gender and structures of patriarchy. The learning outcomes for this module include, firstly, to define and understand the concepts of gender and patriarchy, understand their historical development and societal implications. Secondly, to develop an understanding of theoretical frameworks on patriarchy and gender and critically examine gender inequalities. Thirdly, to recognize the intersectionality of patriarchy with other systems and its role in shaping experiences of gender inequality. And lastly, to critically analyze the socialization processes that perpetuate patriarchy. Today, we shall delve into an important topic of gender and patriarchy. We shall begin by defining these concepts. Coming to the definition and meaning of the terms gender and patriarchy. The terms sex and gender are often interchangeably used, giving the impression that these terms are different expressions with the same meaning. Many people consider the term gender to be a more polite alternative to using the term sex. It may be considered as using euphemisms such as washroom or restroom to refer to toilet. But there exist fundamental differences between these terms. Sex denotes the biological status allocated to us at the time of birth based on our appearance and on the appearance of our genitals. Gender, however, refers to our socio-cultural and psychological interpretation of our biological sex. The terms male and female denote distinctions in sex. On the other hand, the terms masculine and feminine denote distinctions in our gender. Thus, gender encompasses a broad spectrum that includes femininity, masculinity, and various gender fluid and non-binary identities. Patriarchy, on the other hand, refers to a social system where the power and authority predominantly rests in the hands of the men. This has implications for various aspects of lives, such as experiences of gender inequality, culture, economics, and politics. There are various dimensions of patriarchy. It may be manifested in the form of rigid gender roles, gender stereotypes, shaming language, negative female portrayals, unequal pay, male-dominated industries, leniency towards male for neglecting the roles of fathers or husbands, objectification, etc. Let us now discuss the social construction of gender. Gender is socially constructed, meaning that it is not inherent or a fixed trait. It is socially constructed through processes of socialization, power dynamics, and cultural norms. Often gender roles are learned and internalized early in life, giving the impression that gender is a natural product of our biology. For instance, boys and girls are given sex-typed toys to play with. Boys are more likely to be gifted a truck set or gun set, whereas girls are more likely to be gifted a doll. Similarly, boys are taught to be more competitive and assertive, whereas girls are taught to be submissive, nurturing by various agents of socializations like parents, friends, books, media, etc. The understanding of the social construction of gender is crucial as it can often be limiting and oppressive. Let us now consider historical context of gender and patriarchal structures. Historically, patriarchal systems have been existent throughout the human history, and the discourse around gender has been heavily influenced by them. However, it is important to note that manifestation of these systems have varied over time and across cultures. In many of the ancient societies, gender roles were rigidly defined and patriarchal structures were deeply ingrained. In civilizations like Greece, Rome, Egypt, Mesopotamia, etc., politics, economics, and social institutions were controlled primarily by men. It was only in exceptional cases that women held positions of power, such as Nefertiti in Egypt, Rani Lakshmi Bai, Rani Ahilya Bai Holkar, or Rani Chenna Bhaira Devi in India. During the Middle Ages, the rise of organized religion further reinforced patriarchy. Various religious texts of various religions depicted women as inferior and subservient to males. With the coming of the Industrial Revolution and Enlightenment era, new ideas emerged and some progress was made. But even then, women's rights and gender equality did not garner much attention until the emergence of the feminist and suffrage movements in the 19th and the 20th century. The first wave of feminism focused on women's legal rights and suffrage. The second wave of the 1960s and the 70s focused on challenging gender norms. The third wave of feminism of the 1990s focused on the consciousness raising, aiming to raise the awareness about the impact of patriarchy. Contemporary understanding of gender focuses on expanding beyond the binary distinction of male and female. Recognizing the gender fluid and non-binary nature of gender helps to acknowledge that gender is not determined by sex, but by a complex interplay of individual, cultural, and social factors. Let us now consider the theoretical frameworks to analyze these patriarchal structures. It is crucial to understand the power and privilege to effectively analyze patriarchy. Power is imposed not only through formal structures, but also operates at individual and interpersonal levels. Patriarchal structures disempower and marginalize women and grant power and privilege to men. Such impact of patriarchy has been scrutinized through the lens of various theoretical frameworks. Feminist theories have frequently been utilized to examine various dimensions of patriarchy. Feminist theories refer to a collection of varied perspectives that analyze and critique the social, political, and cultural structures that perpetuate gender inequalities. Key feminist theories include radical feminism, liberal feminism, and intersectional feminism. Radical feminism emphasizes the need for radical reordering of the society as it views patriarchy as the root cause of gender inequality, thereby demanding a complete dismantling of the patriarchal structures. Liberal feminism, on the other hand, challenges discriminatory practices and seeks to install gender equality through legal reforms and equal opportunities within the existing social and political structures. Lastly, intersectional feminism recognizes how different aspects of identity such as race, sexuality, class, caste, etc. interact, resulting in differences in the experiences of oppression. Let us now discuss the gendered implications of patriarchal structures. It is crucial to understand that patriarchy as a system does not necessarily benefit all men, but rather it results in power dynamics that disempower and disadvantage women by serving as a system of oppression and exploitation. For instance, women often disproportionately share the burden of domestic chores and childcare. In patriarchal societies, females are often dependent financially on the males of the family and hence are frequently denied various rights and are excluded from important decision making. Gender differential can also be observed in education, income, nutrition, and in even sleep. Another way in which patriarchal control may manifest itself is in the form of body policing and reproductive control. Often unrealistic beauty standards are imposed on women, thereby reducing them to being objects of male desire. Another significant area where patriarchal societies exert control over women is on their bodies through reproductive control. Women are often denied reproductive rights through the systematic imposition of moral, cultural, and religious norms that restrict access to contraception, abortion, prenatal and maternal healthcare services, etc. Let us now discuss the intersection of patriarchy and gender-based violence. It is also crucial to understand the insidious link between patriarchy and gender-based violence. Gender-based violence refers to the form of violence that is directed towards an individual based on their gender. It can be physical, sexual, or psychological in nature. Some common forms of gender-based violence include rape, domestic violence, intimate partner violence, female genital mutilation, acid attack, etc. The deeply entrenched power balances in a patriarchal society perpetuate gender-based violence. Patriarchy grants more privilege and power to males, which leads to abuse of power and normalization of violence. In many parts of the world, domestic violence is viewed as an acceptable part of married life. Such power imbalances also perpetuate myths associated with specific crimes such as rape myths that perpetuate violence against women and relieve the offender of his responsibility. For instance, the belief that only girls of bad character are raped creates an environment of victim blaming. Gender stereotypes, cultural practices, and societal norms too sometimes normalize behaviors. It is due to social and cultural factors that women are often encouraged to remain silent about their victimization experiences, leading to underreporting of various types of gender-based violence. Moreover, the systematic inequalities in patriarchal societies, such as lack of access to education, healthcare, justice, etc., further perpetuate gender-based violence. Gender-based violence has been associated with a range of outcomes such as financial burden on the victim, physical injuries, stigma, and psychological symptoms. Evidence suggests a link between gender-based violence and a range of mental health conditions like depression, anxiety, PTSD, battered women syndrome, rape trauma syndrome, etc. Gender-based violence is not only harmful to individuals experiencing it, but also to society at large, as it creates a culture of fear and perpetuates gender inequality in society. Patriarchy in institutions and systems. The influence of patriarchy is visible across various domains including education, healthcare, governance, politics, law, and religion. Since males have predominantly occupied leadership positions in political systems throughout history, most policies favor the perspective of males and lead to disenfranchisement and marginalization of women. The continued underrepresentation of women in political institutions limits their ability and opportunity to influence and shape policies that affect their lives. For a long time, patriarchal structures have also manifested in the legal system in the form of biases in the laws related to property rights, divorce, and marriage. It was only recently, after the 2022 Supreme Court directives, that the legal rights of the daughters over the ancestral properties were expanded. Patriarchy also influences the education system, as in several cultures, including that of India, male education is given preference over female education, leading to gender differential in the literacy rate and dropouts from schools and colleges. In cases where education may be accessible regardless of gender, patriarchy shapes the curriculum in a way that perpetuates gender roles and stereotypes. For instance, home science is often considered a feminine discipline as compared to science and technology. Patriarchy also influences the healthcare systems by marginalizing the healthcare needs of women and other gender minorities, leading to unequal health outcomes. Another institution that reinforces patriarchal structures is religion. Many religions have frequently been enforced and interpreted in ways that oppress and subordinate women. Religious texts, traditions, and doctrines are often utilized to justify various forms of gender-based discrimination, gender-based violence, and to limit the agency of women. They have also been used to justify violence to discriminate against other gender minorities. However, one must also note that sometimes religion can work to promote gender equality. Let us now consider the intersections of patriarchy and masculinity. It is also crucial to note that patriarchy shares a complex relationship with men and masculinity too. Masculinity may be defined as the set of cultural, social, and behavioral expectations that are associated with being the male gender. Patriarchal societies involve the social construction of masculinity as well. Through various agents of socialization, men are expected to adhere to masculine norms and are stigmatized and ridiculed for their emotional and vulnerable expressions. One aspect of masculinity that has particularly garnered attention is toxic masculinity. It refers to a range of harmful attitudes, behaviors, and expectations that are associated with the conventional understanding of masculinity. It expects men to conform to rigid gender roles, promotes emotional repression, and reinforces aggression and dominance among men. Such toxic masculinity is detrimental to men as well as their relationships with other genders, including women and individuals with non-binary identities. Expectations of idealized forms of masculinity from men subject them to intense pressure. Repression of emotions may result in a range of mental health and behavioral issues, including depression, anxiety, anger management issues. Perpetuation of traditional expression of masculinity may also limit the choices of males, thus restricting their growth and wellness. Toxic masculinity further reinforces the power imbalances in society that negatively impacts the relationship of men with other genders by creating issues in communication and leading to a lack of mutual respect and intimacy. Let us now discuss some of the ways in which patriarchal systems can be transformed. But before we discuss that, we must understand that women and other gender minorities have often been neglected in various important researches. A very interesting book titled Invisible Women cites various studies that highlight this issue. For instance, most cars have been designed by testing on male models and hence are less safe for use by women. Even most buildings have been designed catering to the needs of men more than women. That is why equal spaces are allotted to men and women in washrooms. Women have also been left out from several medical trials, hence increasing the risk for women when consumed. Even the buildings have been designed in ways that they cater more to the needs of men than that of women. Hence, we need to adopt a multi-pronged approach to dismantle and transform patriarchal systems. Let me share an interesting example with you all. A number of times when we organize events that are meant for women empowerment, they are only attended by women, whereas we need all genders to come together so as to achieve the goal of gender equality. Such an approach must involve policy interventions, the promotion of allyship, and the building of gender equitable institutions and systems. There is a need for developing and implementing policy interventions that are designed to promote gender equality. This will involve developing and implementing laws that protect the rights of women and promote gender equity in the workspace and other aspects of life. Affirmative actions taken by the government that are aimed at providing equal opportunities to women in education and employment, such as the reservation, is an example of policy intervention that can dismantle patriarchal structures. The creation of gender equitable institutions and systems is also crucial for transforming patriarchal systems. Institutions that recognized gender-specific needs and cater to their needs, such as women's health clinics, women's education centers, queer affirmative mental health clinics, etc. must be created. Moreover, gender perspectives must be integrated into all projects, policies, and programs to promote gender equity. There is also a need to promote allyship that involves men actively advocating for women's rights. Such supportive masculinities would involve men rejecting traditional notions of masculinity that are rooted in patriarchal systems and adopting a more egalitarian view of gender roles. This would involve challenging sexism, rejecting toxic masculinity, promoting positive attitudes towards women, and advocating for gender rights and equity. Let us now consider some future directions and possibilities. Over the past decades, women have tirelessly fought for their rights and have also made remarkable strides in gender equality movements. Beginning with the suffrage movement, women across the world have gone on to gain access to education and reproductive rights. In the Indian context, women have actively participated in various gender equality movements and various spheres, including education, workforce, and politics. However, it is crucial to examine these progressions critically to accurately identify the disparities that exist in areas of representation, in leadership positions, pay equity, and the prevalence of gender-based violence. To ensure continued momentum towards an egalitarian society, the government has implemented various legislations such as the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act of 2005 and the Protection of Women from Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act 2013. Despite that, patriarchal structures continue to pose a threat to gender equality. It is important to envision a post-patriarchal future where gender equality is fully realized and people are not restrained by rigid gender roles. Everyone must have equal access to decision-making power, resources, and opportunities. Envisioning a world where gender-based violence is a relic of the past is a fruitful exercise as it will serve as a guiding light that will inspire the members of the society to dismantle patriarchal systems and shift towards creating a more inclusive and just society for genders. To achieve that, both individual and collective actions are required. At the individual level, we can begin by examining and challenging our own biases, societal norms, and privileges by advocating for gender equality. Collective actions in the form of grassroots movements, fostering community dialogue, and engaging in policy advocacy, etc., can also help pave the way for transformation of patriarchal structures. Coming to the conclusion, we explored the definitions of gender and developed the understanding that gender is socially constructed. Patriarchy represents a system where authority and power predominantly are controlled by men. Patriarchal structures have shaped several aspects of our society, such as education, religion, healthcare, law, politics, etc. Patriarchy does not necessarily benefit men, but disenfranchises, marginalizes, and disempower women by limiting their representation in leadership positions. Access to education and healthcare, legal rights, and reproductive control. Patriarchal structures also perpetuate gender-based violence, resulting in detrimental consequences for individuals and society at large. Analysis of patriarchy through the lens of different theoretical frameworks such as liberal feminism, intersectional feminism, and radical feminism offered valuable insights into the complexities and intersectionality of the experience of gender inequality. We have also concluded that patriarchy impacts men and masculinity as well. We recognize the harmful effects of toxic masculinity, thus highlighting the importance of promoting more inclusive forms of masculinity. By examining these influences, it is possible to dismantle patriarchal structures. Besides individual efforts, it is our collective responsibility to challenge and transform patriarchal structures and ensure equal rights, opportunities, and representation for all genders. I hope you all found the lecture engaging and interesting, and I hope you have all learned something new in this lecture. Thank you for being with me, and let's meet for the next lecture.